Hey everyone, we're hanging out with Tony Robbins today, the world's premier performance coach. For the past 3 decades, he's worked with clients ranging from champion tennis player Serena Williams to billionaire investor Paul Tudor Jones. He's even coached former President Bill Clinton. His access has allowed him to teach and learn from people at the top of their fields, and he's shared those lessons with millions of people through his books, seminars, and now the new Netflix documentary, I'm Not Your Guru, which is coming out on Friday. So we asked you guys on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts for questions you'd like to ask him, whether it has to do with your personal life, your career, or your personal finances. And we're taking questions live right now on Facebook. So
Awesome.
To start off, we have Ava from Twitter. She's saying, how can I manage both my emotional and my career goals? How can I determine what to even prioritize?
Well, your emotional goals, most people don't have emotional goals. I'm impressed by that. You say emotional goals, what is it? Is that to be happy every day, to be fulfilled, to live in a beautiful state, to not be a suffering person that so many people, find something to complain about, something to worry about, something to be disturbed by. What's wrong is always available. So is what's right. And it's not about positive thinking, because I don't believe in that. I don't believe you should go to your garden and chant, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, and think that that's going to solve something. I'm a believer, find the weed and rip it out. I'm a believer in preparing yourself for anything. So when you talk about your career goals and your emotional goals, you know what they are, but what I would say is, it sounds like you're a bit overwhelmed. If you're even asking me this question. And that really probably says to me it's not so much maybe a career challenge as much as it is an internal challenge. There's 2 worlds to master. There's the external world and there's the internal world. And many people master the external world and they're miserable. Like, they make a lot of money, they're good in business, they do well in their career, but they're miserable. They're not happy, they're not fulfilled, they don't have great relationships. So I really believe the internal world has to be mastered first. I really believe we lost what I would consider to be a national treasure 2 years ago when Robin Williams died. I've been asking people all over the world over this last year. I was in China just recently, I was in Australia, I was in Brazil, London, up in Canada, and I asked people in the room, 5,000-10,000 people, how many of you not liked but loved Robin Williams? Don't raise your hand if you liked him. And I said, how many? Raise your hand. And 95% of the people in Beijing, 95% of the people in London, in Sydney, Australia, are all raising their hand. And I'm saying, so here's my question. There's 2 skills in life to master. And maybe this will help answer your question. One skill is the science of achievement. Your ability, like your career, to say, here's where I want to go, here's what I want to do, and how do I convert my dream into effing reality, right? What do I need to do? What's the strategy? What's the tool? How do I get it done? And I spent a lifetime basically learning the strategies and tools on how to compress decades into days, how to do things faster, better, more enjoyably. And the fastest way to do it, of course, is to not learn by your own experience. If you have a career goal, the best thing is find a role model who's already achieved what you want, or a version thereof, or a similar version, and then figure out what did they do to do it faster and better than anyone else. Because it might take someone 10 years to figure the answer, but once they know the answer, they might be able to teach it to you in 2 hours, 10 days, 2 weeks. My obsession is, how do I compress decades into days? And the only reason I'm here and have the privilege to work with so many people around the world and have worked with 50 million people from 100 countries is, it isn't just me. I'm a hunter of human excellence. I'm looking for people the best in the world, and I figure out what makes them best. Instead of just saying they're lucky or they just worked hard, I want to know what it is. So the science of achievement presupposes that it's a science, that there are specific things that if you wanted to have more money, for example, I wrote a whole book called Money Master the Game. I interviewed 50 of the smartest financial minds in the earth, from Warren Buffett to Carl Icahn. And what I found is there's a pattern. All the people I interviewed, by the way, were not from the Lucky Sperm Club. They all made the money from nothing. They didn't inherit it. And so when I saw the patterns, you can apply those patterns. And you don't have to be a billionaire to apply them. If you apply them, you're going to have an abundance of economics, of financial freedom. If you break these rules, the science of wealth, then you're going to have too much month at the end of the money. You're going to have too much financial stress. So the body is the same way. All of us are biochemically unique. But at the same time, there's certain universal laws we all know around the body that if you violate those laws, you're going to have a low energy level, you're going to have disease in your body. If you have higher levels of energy, if you align with it, you're going to have a different quality of life. So the science of achievement, I think, is critical as a way of saying, how do I create a magnificent life, which is life on your terms, not Tony Robbins' idea, not your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, not the people you work with. What do you really want today? Not 10 years ago, but now. And then building a plan, that's what I do. But I think the more important skill, and maybe it relates to your emotional question, is that I know lots of people. I get the phone call from multi-billionaires that want me to do this thing for their group of people or for their business or themselves. People tell me what they want, and I co-deliver that. I'm kind of like a Trojan horse. Whatever you want. You want to lose weight? You want to make more money? I know those strategies and tools. But I also work to give people what they need. And what we need is to be fulfilled. Because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure in life. There's nothing worse than making everybody else happy and you being miserable. And that's not a gift to your children. That's not a gift to yourself. That's not a gift to the person you love in your life, you're intimate. It's not a gift to your spirit. So I think the second skill that has to be mastered is what I would call the art of fulfillment. And the reason I say art is that it's not a science. What's going to excite you or turn you on or fulfill you is different than the person next to you, even if they're a dear friend. So I mean, an example I've given a lot of times about this. I have a friend named Steve Wynn that you probably have heard of. He built the Wynn hotels. He built half of Las Vegas, the Encore, the Wynn, Bellagio, Treasure Island, all these places he built. And multi-billionaire started with nothing. And one day he calls me up and says, "Where are you, Tony?" And I told him I was in Sun Valley, Idaho. We both have vacation homes there. And he goes, "I'm in Sun Valley and it's my birthday. Hey, can you come over?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." And he says, "Listen, when you come, I got to show you something." He said, "For my birthday, I've had a film, or I should say a painting that I've coveted for, I don't remember how many years, 10, 12, 15 years. And he said, I outbid everybody on Sotheby's. And he said, I paid $82 million for this painting. And I'm like, wow, I just can't wait to see it. So I'm picturing, I don't know, the Mona Lisa, some Rembrandt, some unbelievable painting. And I walk in, he goes, "Check it out." And I look on his wall and there's this big giant orange and red square. Have you ever done this, gone to an art show and you say, "How much?" And they go, $1 million. Are you crazy? And it's called a Rothko. If you're in the art community, you know what a Rothko is. But it's an orange and red square. And I said, "Steve, it's an orange and red square." He goes, "No, it's a Rothko." I said, "Dude, 82 million? I mean, give me some paint and $100. I can do this in 30 minutes, right?" And he laughed. He goes, no. And I'm just teasing you. I really respect him because he can find $82 million worth of pleasure looking at that square. I'm not that sophisticated. I don't see it, but he is. And the reason I tell you that is we get fulfilled by different things, but the common denominator would be for you emotionally is what's going to change your emotion is if you're growing. If you don't keep growing, it doesn't matter how much you achieve, it doesn't matter how many people love you, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you don't keep growing, you're not going to feel alive and happy. We grow or we die. You're growing in your relationship or your relationship is dying. You're growing in your business or your business is dying. There's no plateaus. There's no in-betweens. So for me, when I look at this, I go, progress equals happiness. In other words, if achieving a goal, a lot of people achieve a goal and they go, "Is this all there is?" Right? So they're not fulfilled. What you really want to do is, it's not the goal that makes you happy. What makes you happy is who you become in pursuit of the goal. What you get won't make you happy. Who you become will make you happy or really sad, depending upon who you become in the pursuit of what you want. So I'm a big believer we grow so that we can meet a deeper need. We all want to give. Everything thinks they want to receive, but truthfully, when something great happens in your life, the first thing most of us want to do is share it with somebody we love, right? Because it's so beautiful, and because when we share it, it becomes more. There's only so much joy, pleasure you can feel inside. You can have drugs, alcohol, rock and roll, everything you supposedly think you may want, but you only feel so much. But when you share it, it expands. So I really think that, if you look at somebody, like I was giving the example here of, a man that mastered all of these sciences, meaning he made TV shows, he made the whole world laugh, he made more money than he can spend, Robin Williams, had a beautiful family, and he killed himself. He hung himself, leaving behind millions of people who loved him, more importantly, leaving behind his family, his wife and children. Why? Why did he kill himself? Because he suffered. Because he made everybody happy but himself. So a huge part of my focus is teaching people how to stop suffering. And if you're listening to this, you probably say, "I don't suffer." If you would have said to me a year and a half ago, "Do you ever suffer?" I'd say, "Are you crazy?" I was like, I have 4 amazing kids, the most amazing wife. I have millions of people I get to serve. I got a mission. I got so much freedom in my life. And that would all be true. I wouldn't be exaggerating. But at the same time, I've come to learn that emotionally, to answer your question, there's only 2 types of emotions you can have. Suffering emotions, which we don't like to use that word, but it's really, if you're pissed off, if you're frustrated, if you're worried, if you're overwhelmed, if you're stressed, achievers are never fearful, they're just stressed. I always tell people, stress is the achiever word for fear. If I follow your stress, it'll take me to your deepest fear. So those are all suffering states. And in those states, you're not your best self. In those states, you don't enjoy your life at the highest level. If you have a problem in those states, it's hard to solve it. But the states that I've learned to train my nervous system, train my mind and heart to be in are beautiful states of being. Not just happiness. Happiness is wonderful, but if you're just trying to be happy all the time, it's artificial. But you can be happy, you can be grateful, you can be creative, you can be driven, you can be hungry, you could be in a state of awe, you could feel joy, love, surprise. And when you're in those emotional states, life is beautiful. When you're in those emotional states, you treat other people better because you feel better. You're in those emotional states, you perform at a higher level. And if you can have a problem and you can stay in a beautiful state, you can solve the damn thing. But in a state of suffering, of anger, of frustration, of pissed off, or of lonely, of worried, you're not going to solve squat. So I offer you the opportunity to make a decision. Anybody watching, and it's the most important decision I think a human can make. One of the most important decisions is who you're going to spend time with, who you're going to love, who you're going to have children with if you're going to do that, who you're going to be intimate with, because who we spend time with is who we become. But I think an even more important decision is deciding you're going to be happy no matter what. Not I'm happy as long as I make enough money. Not I'm happy as long as my kids behave. So not I'm happy because my business did something. But you're happy even if it rains on your parade, even if things are terrible, because you've decided life is too short to suffer. And I've made that decision, and that decision has changed my life. Now suffering shows up, frustration, pissed off, worried. That's the human mind. Our brain is 2 million years old, and it's not designed to make you happy. Your brain is designed to make you survive. So it's always looking for what's wrong so you can fight or flight it. And there's no saber-toothed tiger to run from now. So now we get worried about things like, what are people thinking of me? And is my photo really nice enough in social media? Or, do I have enough money when, truthfully, anyone in this country who's in the 99%, people who say, this is a horrible society, they're the 1% of the world. Half the world lives on $2.50 a day. So even if we're struggling in America, and I don't want anybody to struggle, we certainly are way ahead of the rest of the world. We are the 1% to the rest of the world, even if you're somebody who's in seemingly poverty in this country. So if you want to change your life, you can't build on failure, you can only build on success. And my invitation to you, my dear, is to consider that what I really need to do is become emotionally fit. I need to drive myself. I need to get stronger mentally and emotionally, and then I can handle my career so much easier. But if I don't master that, nothing works. And you won't master that as long as you let the stories dominate you. I'll give you one last example. Let's take another question, because I've gone off on this because it's one of my biggest passions, and I really want, I didn't come here to just go on Facebook. If one person watches this thing and makes this decision that says, I'm not going to suffer anymore, I'm going to make myself be in a beautiful state. And if I feel suffering, I have a 90-second rule. It simply says, what makes us suffer is our thoughts, right? We're the only creatures on earth that can have thoughts and then make ourselves feel like shit, or have thoughts and make ourselves feel good. And most people don't master their minds. And so their minds go crazy, and we believe our thoughts. We believe that if this doesn't happen, our lives are going to be so stressed or over. And most of it is just bullshit. The mind is looking for what's wrong. Your heart can change all that. Your mind's never going to let you enjoy an apple, right? Because it's going to go, is it organic? Where did it come from? Your heart, your spirit can enjoy anything in life. And so my goal is, billionaires are common. What's uncommon is humans that live in a beautiful state of being no matter what. And I can't control whether your husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend's going to never leave you or stay with you, or whether anyone in your family will ever have ill health or die. Those things are going to happen. Aren't you glad you came to this positive little Facebook live conversation? It's going to happen. So the only way to have a great life is decide, I'm going to find beauty in anything that happens in my life. I'm sure if you look back on your life, most of us have had experiences where something horrible happens, something you never want to go through again in your lifetime. But at the same time, that 5-10 years later, you look back and go, I would never want to go through it. I would never want anybody I care about to go through that. But I'm glad I did, because it made me so strong to deal with that. Or because I went through that, it hurt so bad that I care so much. And I love that I care so much today. You found a higher meaning 5 or 10 years later. My view is life is always happening for us, not to us. The problem that you're experiencing is a call for you to grow. If you don't grow, it stays a problem. If you do grow and you solve it, you not only solved the problem for yourself, but now you can help someone else because you've really solved it and it's not bullshit. So my invitation, long ass answer, isn't it? It's a soliloquy because I can't see your face. But my answer is get emotionally fit by learning to trade what upsets you, which is your expectations that aren't being met. Trade your expectations for appreciation for what you do have. Your whole life changes in a moment. Because our expectations make us pissed off or frustrated or worried or sad, and we all have them, and I have them too. But when they come up, I just remind myself, look, this is just my mind. I'm more than this mind. I got a heart and soul. What can I appreciate? How can I use this challenge to go to a deeper level? And that's the only way we get free. Because no amount of money, no amount of family, no amount of love, no amount of friendships, no amount of accolades, no amount of Academy Awards or Emmys or whatever the hell it is you person may think they want, none of that will guarantee a life that is fulfilled. And Robin Williams is just one metaphor example for that. What will make it is you. If you decide today, and this is all I got across in this piece, and I actually reached you, is for you to decide that I'm 100% responsible for the experience of my life. And that anything can happen. I am bigger than the moment. I am more than anything can happen to me. And I can find a way to find something beautiful, something helpful, something, enjoyable. Finding ecstasy in this moment, talking to you or with a friend, is something we're capable of, but most of us are not focused on it. Most of us are focused on making a living. We don't design our lives, and we let life happen to us. I'm inviting you to take back control. So it's a long-ass answer to say what you need to do, my dear, is get emotionally fit. And the way to do that would be every day read 30 minutes, not the internet. Get a book that will inspire you. Get a book that will teach you a new skill, a new strategy. Get something that will transform you and give it 30 minutes a day, leaders or readers. And then secondly, do something physical every day. That'll change you emotionally. Because fear and anger are physical. And you feel it in your throat, in your gut. But so is courage is physical. And so if you go for an intense run, even 10-minute like sprint, or you lift weights, or you dance, or you do something, when you do something that uses your whole body and the blood starts pulsing through you, you will change emotionally because the mind and the body are tied together. So daily, I'm feeding my mind. Daily, I'm strengthening and feeding my body and challenging it and making it grow. And maybe a third element would help you grow is find a role model. Figure out what they're doing, do the same thing, and maybe the fourth thing is find somebody who's hurting worse than you are and help them. Because we all think we have problems, but what puts them in perspective is that there's always somebody who's in worse shape, and if you can help them, it'll put things in perspective. I used to do a seminar where I did a night where I brought people in that lost their sight, lost their legs, arms, lost family members, and they were happy. And I would have them tell their stories, and I called the night, "You Have No Problems." Because when you see somebody who's been through every problem on earth that's horrific and you see them happy, you know you have no excuse. So my invitation is decide you're going to be happy no matter what, and then burn the boats. If you want to take the island, burn the boats. In other words, burn your ability to go backwards. Commit yourself to this. And I think you'll find, I know you'll find, as I have, an even greater quality of life that everyone deserves. And look, in these divisive times, angry people are everywhere. And that anger comes from hurt. And we live in a society right now where, so many people look at the world only through their perception, and then they feel upset. If you watch MSNBC, you're going to have one experience. If you watch Fox, you're going to think life is a totally different experience. And I think what we got to do is come together. And Americans all over this country are hurting. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, you name it. And I think we've got to come together. And the only good news about the situation we're in right now is things like Black Lives Matter. It's not saying white lives don't matter. It's just human beings saying, I want to know that my child can go outside and not be hurt by the police, to be able to trust they're going to be protected. And most, obviously, officers are incredible. You don't have to pick sides between Black Lives Matter and the police. Both need our support. And the support for Black Lives Matter say, we hear you. It's hard for a white person who's never been through the type of abuse that can happen to understand it. And it's also hard when we see there's so many hardworking police officers that are now being berated. I think we got to come back together the truth and see the truth. If 100 planes were to land at a local airport and 98 land and 2 crashed, the 98 good officers no one talks about, unfortunately. The 2 crashes, of course, everybody talks about. And so my hope is that societal change only happens when we hit a threshold, when change becomes a must because it's too painful. And my hope is that we're near that threshold now and that we as a society can improve. But people ask me all the time, someone asked me recently and said, what kind of person would go like Paris and kill men, women, children, or San Bernardino, or what happened down, in Orlando? And I say, I can't tell you who did it, but I can tell you who didn't. A happy person didn't kill all those people. A fulfilled person does not look to hurt others, kill others. A happy, fulfilled person does not try to steal from other people. They don't try to tear people down. So when you see somebody angry, tearing everybody down, they're suffering. And the best solution for that first is don't suffer yourself, because then you can have some compassion and perhaps connect with them and not judge them. So that's my soliloquy. I hope there's something in there that you find useful. You can tell I'm quite passionate about this because I hate to see people suffer, and I love to see people lit up. And it's not easy, but it's worth it. And once you develop the habit of killing the suffering off, when it happens, 90 seconds, I see it, let it go, move on, your level of happiness will explode. Next question. At this rate, we might get one other question in, right? Well, but you asked a really important one.
Coming off of that, we have a lot of our readers interested specifically in what is your advice to someone who's struggling to find a new job, whether they were just fired, laid off, or they're just trapped in a job that they're just miserable at. How do you help someone get out of that when they have no motivation?
Well, if you don't have a job, you might be motivated to get one. Poverty and hunger were good motivation for me at one stage of my life. But to answer your question, I think it's a really good question. I had a teacher named Jim Rohn. He was a personal development speaker. And I remember I was really frustrated, and I'd been working my guts out 12, 14-hour days. Nothing was working. And I was pissed off, and I was frustrated. And he said, Tony, he said, you're so focused on expecting things to happen so fast. And he said, if you really focus instead on building your skills, your gifts will make room for you. And I thought that was very insightful. I thought, he told me, he said, Tony, I asked him, I said, my father, I have 4 fathers, but my main father, we were always broke. We had no money for food at Thanksgiving. That's why, last year I fed 100 million people in my partnership with Feeding America. I'm feeding another 100 million this year. I'm going to feed 1 billion people in the next 9 years. So I said, all that drive came because I didn't have the food and I didn't have the experience, and it gave me the drive to come up with answers. But I remember asking him, I said, my father works so hard, we're always broke, we have no money, why is that? And he said, Tony, a person's worth as a soul is infinite. But he said, your worth in the marketplace is based on your ability to add more value than anyone else. If you can find a way to do more for others in your company, more for the employees, more for the clients than anybody else, your gifts will make room for you. But in order to do that, you got to build skills. He said, look, if you go to work at McDonald's, and the numbers were different back then, but I think now, some places it's $15 now because the law changes, but other places it's about $7.50. Why does somebody at McDonald's make $7.50 an hour? And then you look at some of these hedge fund guys, one guy in particular I know, John Paulson, made like $4 billion personally just 1 year and $5 billion the next year. And the level of injustice on the surface of that seems so huge. But the reason somebody makes $7.50 an hour is their skill sets aren't that sophisticated, and a machine's doing most of the work. And more of that's coming, as we all know. I mean, what's going to happen to truck drivers when there's 3 million truck drivers 5 or 10 years from now, whenever it really happens, when you have self-driving trucks and they can drive 24 hours a day and they don't make mistakes? And no one's telling those truck drivers what they got to do right now. You need to retool. You need to figure out what is in demand in the marketplace. And you need to go get those skills and those abilities so that when things happen, you're going to be in charge and you're going to have a great life. You're not going to be wondering, how do I keep myself going? How do I survive? How do I earn an income? And right now, blue-collar jobs that all the politicians tell us they're going to bring back from China, it's all bullshit, and you know it. Those jobs are never coming back. People who make $100,000 a year, there's a 1% unemployment rate for. And people make that much money because they're in demand, and they're in demand because they have skills. They have leadership skills. They have cognitive skills. They have technology skills. And that's what's valued in our society today. So the guy that made $4 billion made people 40% on their money that year. Not go to your bank and have them give you, 0.5% that takes, 80 years for it to duplicate or grow or double up. This man gave people 40% that year, so he was worth that much money to them because all those people, families, societies, organizations profited so hugely. We all have to find a way to do more for others than anyone else. You've got to retool yourself, and you got to say, where is that needed? Is it in alternative energy? Maybe I want to get in that industry because it's growing. Is it in nursing? Because unfortunately, medical doctors and nurses, that part of our society is getting older and it's growing. Is it something involved with tech? But you don't want to delude yourself and just think, I'm just going to get another job with the skills I have. You got to go get them, and you got to get yourself up and moving. And if you do, you're going to have an amazing life. If you don't, you're going to listen to politicians who will make you empty promises. I mean, I like Bernie Sanders a lot personally, but I wouldn't have voted for him because, things like saying the answer is that we're going to provide everyone with, college education sounds so smart. But how many people know they got a 4-year college education, not from a community college, but from a great college that can't find a job? It's because the education that we have in these community colleges and other colleges, a lot of it is so outdated and there aren't the practical skills that the businesses need from you to be employed by them. So I don't think those are the answers. Don't listen to politicians. Participate in your own rescue. Step up. Ask yourself, what are the industries that are growing? What do I love? What do I enjoy? Get around where it's better. Go offer your services maybe to be a mentor, mentee, I should say, in some place. Go for a training program and get the skills and you'll be able to move up.
So we're getting a bunch of questions from our readers, and maybe we could try a speed
Some
round.
quick ones?
Yeah. So to just start, Inga would like to know, how many hours a day do you spend on work? Every day, yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't look at it as work because it's, whenever I ask people, I said, do you work? Do you have a career? Or do you have a mission? If somebody says they work, they're always burnt out because that's what work is work. A lot of people work 8 hours a day and then they go do something for fun that's much harder than their work, playing a sport, doing something that's more demanding physically. But the difference between work and mission is a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. When what you're doing is meaningful, it's not work. What's the old phrase? When your vocation becomes your vacation, you've made it. I think it was Martin, I forget who said the quote. It wasn't Martin Luther King. But the point is, I love what I do, so I don't see it that way. But to answer your question specifically, I'm on stage 12 to 14 hours in a day when I'm on stage. I have 18 companies now, 12 that I actively manage. We have 1,200 employees in 3 continents and 7 industries. We do $5 billion a year in sales. There's unbelievable diversity in my life. And I, just like you, I've got this communicator in my pocket. And so there's constantly things coming. So I work a lot, but I have 4 adult children that I love. I got a wife that I'm mesmerized by and who I adore. And I snowboard and I play golf and I snorkel and I, do boating and I do a lot of other cool and fun and simple things. But I'm most satisfied by my mission, so I'm pulled to it again and again. So 12 to 16 hours. How's that for a short answer?
Andrew wants to know, how do you overcome procrastination?
Put it off. Easiest way to deal with procrastination is put it off. You feel like procrastinating? I'm going to procrastinate on Friday, right? I'm just going to do this shit.
Jennifer wants to know, how do you change a team from followers to collaborators?
That's a great question. You have to make the environment safe. I know that sounds corny as shit, but people have to feel like they can share ideas and the ideas aren't going to be attacked and destroyed. Most people don't share because they don't want to fail. And they don't want to be rejected. They don't want to look good. And most great creativity comes out of brainstorming all kinds of ideas. So in our environments, in all our companies, we have a simple rule. In the brainstorming phase, you can't make any negative comments. And there are no bad ideas, because a bad idea can often trigger you to think of something that's actually a good idea. The secret is not to stop the flow and just get everything out as fast as you can. So if you want to get a group to become collaborators, create a safe environment, create some simple rules, make sure people don't interrupt and step on people, get the ideas up, and then a momentum takes over. When people start to see that bad ideas can lead to good ideas, and there are no bad ideas. When people start to see that they're respected and appreciated, then most people want to participate. People don't come to work so they can sit around and do nothing. They don't come to work to have someone tell them what to do. I mean, we live in a society today where most of us don't work on a platform where we're having an assembly line and we got to do what everybody else does. We have to be self-directed, self-motivated, self-driven, and we've got to find ways to add value. So if you show people that they're heard and if their ideas get implemented, if it's safe, you usually can get a much higher level of participation than most companies do.
Kathy would like to know, how can I be more assertive if it doesn't come naturally?
Well, that's interesting. How to become more assertive. I've taught for decades that trying to do that in your head to be more assertive, it's hard because your brain's like, oh yeah, but what if this, what if that, and who am I to do this? And the mind plays these games. But I've always taught people that if you want to change your mind or your emotion, the fastest way is a radical change in your body. Like, if you see someone who's depressed, without me telling you anything, you could tell me that person has a physiology to them, a way of using their body. Like, if you see a depressed person, any of you listening right now, What's their posture like? Slumped. Where's their head? Down. Are they breathing full or shallow? You know, shallow. Do they talk really loud and fast, or more quiet and more hesitant? It's more quiet and more hesitant. And the reason is because in order for us to feel any emotion, anger, frustration, uncertainty, excitement, we have to use our body a certain way. And emotion is energy in motion. That's what emotion is. Emotion comes from motion. So the way you move, the way you speak, the tone of your voice, the pitch, the tempo. When I speak like this, I feel very differently than if I went, okay, what's the question again? I think if you were to really, work on your body, I think it will be better. It's like, I want to kill myself in that state. It's just like you feel dead. So most of us have habits of using our body, our breath, our movement, our facial muscles. We have 80 different muscles in our face, 80. For most people, this is the largest area of unemployment in the country. Right? They do the same basic thing over and over again, so they feel the same emotions. So if you want to change your life and you want to be more assertive, get around more assertive people and model them. Take on their posture and move. It seems artificial and bullshit, but I'm sure you know that if you were to fake laugh for a while, what happens is all of a sudden you start to really laugh. In what I'm teaching, I do very intensely with people. We do it in immersion until it becomes automatic, until it becomes a part of you, like a habit. But even Harvard did a study. I've been teaching this 36 years. About, I think 3 years ago, a female professor at Harvard decided to research this, and she found that if all you did was stand, this is what you could do immediately at the end of this call, you can do it right now, any of you want to do it. Stand with your hands on your hips, standing straight up, not sitting, but standing. I can't do it because the camera will be shooting me in the middle of the chest. But when you stand straight up like this, what will happen is if you stand that way for 2 minutes, like Superman, Wonder Woman, within 2 minutes, the testosterone in you, male or female, increases an average of 20%. And the cortisol, which is the stress hormone that stresses you out, drops 15% in 2 minutes. And all you're doing is standing like this, and you're 1/3 more likely to take action, be more assertive, do something you normally wouldn't do. So go stand for 2 minutes like that. I know it sounds totally absurd. There's a TED Talk where she describes this if you want to go see it. I forget the title, but it has to do with, I think it's power postures. But that's one simple thing you could do right away.
So what Santiago wants to know is, how can I overcome a fear of failure if it's keeping him from going forward?
So Santiago, if you've got this fear of failure, the easiest way to deal with the fear of failure is to be more fearful of not taking action, to be more fearful of settling for a life that is far below what you deserve and what you desire. Turn fear on itself. You're never going to get rid of fear. We all have fear. I've dealt with presidents of the United States, presidents, multi-billionaire presidents of companies, prisoners, kids, professional athletes. Everybody has a place where they get fearful. It's just the human mind. It's there. So it's not that you're not going to be fearful. I think what it really is just, again, training yourself to say, I can be fearful and I can do it anyway. I don't have to get rid of the fear. I just have to dance with it. I have to use the energy of it to move myself forward. And I found in the early days, I used to when I was trying to make a decision, I would do what I called my rocking chair test. I was like, I can't get myself to do it. I took a helicopter ride one time, and it got me, I was supposed to get to the airport, and I couldn't get there literally for my seminar on time, and I had to be on television the next day, and there was only one flight, and I wasn't willing to cut the seminar, and I said, get me a helicopter. So I brought the helicopter, landed on the roof, I went up, and I got to the airport in Seattle in 12 minutes instead of 45. I made my flight. So I did this, and I was like, wow, we're flying straight across all the people, bumper to bumper, no stop. This is the way to live. What would it take to, learn how to fly a helicopter? And so, I went to go do it, but then it's money, time, energy, where am I going to fit all this in? And so I do this rocking chair test to overcome my fear. I just go, okay, instead of being afraid, I don't have the time or the money, I can't do this. What would life be like? I'm 85 years old, I'm in my rocking chair, and I flew helicopters, and I took my friends and family and took the doors off, and we screamed down on the water, and we lived this life where you could go wherever you want the way you want. I was like, wow. I looked at what that life would be, felt it felt incredible. And what if you never learn? What if you come up with all these fears? I don't have time, I don't have the money, I don't know if I can do it, I don't know if I can master it, and you let the fears dominate me, and I never learned to fly a helicopter, and I'm 85 in my wheelchair, notice that's what I'm thinking now, in my rocking chair, and I look back on my life and I missed out on all that. Very often, you can turn fear on itself, but the fastest way to deal with fear is do it anyway. You don't have to feel good to do stuff. That's an illusion. Make yourself do it. I get up every morning in my life, I say every morning, most mornings, if I'm fortunate enough to be at one of my homes or in many places where I have these cold plunges, 56 degrees. And I make myself first thing jump in that cold plunge. And why? Because I'm a masochist? No. Because first of all, when you go to 56 degrees, every blood goes to every organ of your body. It flushes your system out. It moves your lymph. It's incredibly healthy. But also, I don't want to do it ever. It's too intense. But what I've trained my brain is when I say do it, we do it. I don't negotiate with my mind. I run this in my heart and soul. I don't let the brain run. I use my brain. I don't let my brain use me. I use my mind. I don't let my mind use me. And the way I do it is I've trained it. When I say we go, we go. And I've done it so often that it doesn't matter if it feels good. It doesn't matter if it's too cold. It doesn't matter if I don't feel like it. It doesn't matter if I'm fearful. I do it anyway. And when you train yourself to do it anyway, you have a freedom most people will never have.
Tony, we have just a little bit more time for one more question. Jasmine wants to know, how do you stop caring about what other people think about you?
How do you stop caring about what other people think about? I don't know that you ever stop caring completely. People say they don't care. I think what they really mean is I don't let it stop me. I've dealt with presidents of countries. I've dealt with the top celebrities. Everybody cares. I care. But I don't care at the level where I'm willing to modify me. I don't care at the level where I'm only going to do it to try to please somebody, because I know that, like Taylor Swift says, the haters are going to hate. It's like nothing you're going to do is going to change it. They'll turn something positive into a negative because they're so damn fearful. Whenever people say to me, by the way, that I'm skeptical or I'm pessimistic, I say, come on, let's be honest, you're gutless. It doesn't take any courage to say nothing's going to work, because what you're really saying is I'm afraid to try, because what if I get my hopes up and I'm disappointed? What if I try and I fail and then I look bad? So the hipster approach is to not give a shit. Not giving a shit's a way to have a terrible life. I think you do give a shit. I think you do care, but I think you just don't let it stop you. And I think the way that gets done is you find a mission that you value more than your fear. In other words, many of us will do things for our children we would never do for ourselves, right? I think that's the beauty of human beings. We'll do things for people we love even more than ourselves. That's what makes us human. And I think that's a beautiful part of who we are. So maybe you find something. I don't get up every day when I'm exhausted or tired or burnt out and my body hurts. I don't get up because, this feels so wonderful. I get up because I have a mission. I have something that excites me. I have something that keeps me up late, gets me up early, and makes me feel alive. And if you want to feel what that's like, I'd love to have you come to an event, but I got a cool thing now, which is Netflix did a documentary with Joe Berlinger, he's got 7 Emmy nominations, 2 Emmy Awards, 2 Academy Award nominations, 2 Peabody Awards he's won. Genius. And most of his films are about the worst part of society, FBI abuse, guys that were put in prison. He took him 10 years, almost 20 years to do it. Paradise Lost, if you're familiar with it, where he got them off death row, innocent men that were there. So he sees the worst side of life. He was so skeptical, but he came to my event and it changed his life. And so he made this concert film where it's like going to this event with 2,500 people, and it'll inspire you, it'll move you, it'll touch you. And it comes out on Netflix, so if you got Netflix, costs you nothing, or for $8 you can get all the other films in this one too. But it's called I'm Not Your Guru, Tony Robbins, because I'm not here to be somebody's guru. You have the answers, you've got the ability to implement. I can show you tools to speed it up, but it will move you. You'll see people make changes you never imagined. People from 71 countries. We have 7 languages translated simultaneously, and it is, the LA Times said it's spellbinding, and they said it could change your life. Michael Moore, who, is a great documentarian and very often would think things like the self-help is all bullshit. He goes, this is not self-help. He just recently wrote a letter to Joe Berlinger saying that watching the film changed his life, and he's invited me next week to come to a premiere, which we're going to do in Michigan there with him in Traverse City. So I hope you'll check out the film, and you can go a lot deeper. And a 6-day event is poured in an hour and 55 minutes. I hope you'll watch it because we made it to help people change their lives, and it's available in 190 countries, and it's translated. So that's the power of Netflix. Have fun. Thanks for letting me talk with you today, and I hope I'll have the privilege of maybe meeting you someday soon.
Well, thank you very much, Tony, and thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate it.